our kids, how to make sure our kids are well, how to make sure our kids grow up to be halfway sane, at least positive and successful in life. And I want to suggest to you that's 100% on how we as parents respond around them. There are always going to be influences from the outside luring them, to the dark side, right? But as long as we have put the right example before them throughout their lives, that there'll be an anchor, that they might exhibit the traits of the dark side, but there'll be something keeping them from just going all the way in. There'll be that part of goodness, that part of sanity, that part of you that remains within them. And what I want to suggest is there's always going to be a part of you, a part of me that is with our kids wherever they go, so it's up to us to determine what part we want ourselves to play in them, okay? And see, this is the very difficult part for most of us, as adults, but just as human beings, is simply doing the right thing. See, when you're single and don't have any kids, you can do pretty much whatever you want to do. And your life begins to take on the results of whatever your actions are. We do reap what we sow, in other words. Okay, but when we have kids, that little baby pops into the world, we have a responsibility that's greater to them than it is to ourselves. See, there's this, what I call a falsehood among many married people, especially religious married people, that consider the marriage first and the children second, And I believe that's false. I don't believe there is a first or a second in that. I believe that the child is part of that marriage, is part of that union. It's like looking at your body and determining which part of your body is more important than the others, Well, my big toe, versus my arm. I'm going to choose my arm, of course. But if you lose that big toe, you're going to have a hard time walking. So every part of your body is important, and that child is a part of that marriage. And so when you neglect that child, you're actually neglecting a very viable piece of that marriage, something your marriage has created. So it's important. And so we have to begin checking ourselves, watching our lives. How do we respond in front of our kids? What kind of messages are they taking from us? There's this old song, it's called Cats in the Cradle. And it's very interesting how this young child was somewhat neglected, but even not intentionally. The father was just busy and working, doing his job, taking care of business. But when that child grew up, he was just like his dad, okay? And that's what we have with our kids. When I look at my kids, I look at my son, he's off, in another state, having graduated from college and everything. And I look at his life and I'm amazed at how similar we are in certain areas. And that's why I know how to talk to him, because how would I have responded if somebody had come to me that way? So it's very important to recognize that our children are going to be gleaning from us certain personalities, certain character traits, okay? I look at my daughter as well. I see some of her particular personality traits are mine as well, so I know how to deal with her. I know what will work and what won't work. And so with my kids, they've gotten to experience from me is that all they've known their life is Martin. They never knew Marty. Marty was somewhat destructive, and I'm glad that they came into the world, after I had my epiphany, okay? And so what it takes with children, is a sobriety, is not to be getting that buzz, not to be drinking, not to be smoking weed, not to be taking any kind of mind-altering substance, because you have to be there 24/7 for your kids, and they know that you're there or you're not 24/7. They know the extent of how much you're there for them. For me, I had to be ready if my child called at like 1 in the morning or 2 in the morning from college, or if my child woke up, at midnight with something troubling from school. I have to be there. And so I can't if I'm impaired. If you think about the time that we spend, in the day, we sleep, we go to work, and we our meals and all that stuff. And if you throw getting that buzz in there, there's very little time for your kids to have a sober-minded parent that they can relate to. Okay, and not only that, they're also picking up the vibes, picking up this influence, and it's okay to do that. And it's not. It's not going to be any place for them getting that buzz in life if they really, really want to be successful, okay? And even aside from the buzz, 24/7, that's the parent's new name, okay? And so homework is a very important part of that child's success in the future. Homework and getting good grades, how well they're going to do, what kind of habits, how they look at homework. See, I came up, you know, my family, I guess I had older parents, but I'm about the same age as my parents were, as I am over my daughter. But they weren't really too concerned with my homework. I mean, they were concerned with me getting my homework done, but they weren't concerned with if I was struggling, or they weren't considering that I might be struggling, and I was. I think I was pretty much a C student throughout school. And my parents really weren't hands-on when it came to doing homework. But me, my daughter, man, I was with her every day doing the homework, all the way up until probably the 11th grade, every night. And then, fortunately for me, I was attending school. I started when I was 50, when she was 3. So by the time, when I'm doing college algebra, I think she was doing the same type of algebra in about the 7th grade. So it was fresh on my mind, right? And I'd be helping her with homework every night, and there with her, and expressing to her, not verbally, but in my actions, how important schoolwork was. Plus it helped me attending school from the time she was 3 till the time she was 13. But as well, just being there with her and helping her. I remember there were times that she would have like math problems that she couldn't figure out, and they had to be turned in the next day, and she had to understand the process. And so I'm trying to help her, and I'm like, I don't get it either. Finally, maybe around 9:30 or so, I'd just tell her to go on and go to bed. And I would be up all night, sometimes till 1 in the morning, sometimes getting on my sibling chat with my brothers and my sister and say, hey, can you help me try to figure out how to solve this problem? And between them and the internet, I'd come up with the answer. And then when she woke up in the morning, I would teach her how to solve this type problem and send her off to school. So the responsibility of a parent is always to be present, never to be absent, never to be high, never to be buzzed. And to sacrifice, oneself for their success. And so I'm just sharing today there. And so I see my kids. My son went off to college. And then I was worried about him so much. And he just went to the University of Cincinnati, just 45 minutes away. And I was having coffee with a buddy of mine. And I'm the type parent, when you're a parent that tries to be there when the child is needful of you. And you're always there, you're the child's protector. When that child leaves, man, you're like, a piece of you goes, you're worried. So I'm having coffee with my buddy, and I'm saying, hey, man, I'm really worried about my kid. And he knew it, and he said, let me ask you a question. He said, is your son better than you were when you were his age? And immediately a peace came over me. Because he's way better than I was at that age. And I was fine. And plus, being 45 minutes away, every other weekend I was in Cincinnati and we were having lunch together. It was a cool time. Now my daughter, she decided to go across the country to another state. Yeah, it's a different story. But nowadays we have like FaceTime and texting, and so it's a lot different than it was when he was in. But my daughter, she's good. She's good. And I was worried when she was leaving because she's my little girl. But that influence, she found a church before she even went there, and was going to church by herself, and then invited a friend, her roommate. And now she's got 13 kids going with her to church every Sunday. And so when you place in your child a particular influence, there's an old saying that raise up a child in the way they should go, and when they are old they shall not depart. Now, we've kind of misunderstood that particular biblical scripture. It really means recognize their personality traits, and help them along that path, which as a parent, as a present parent, you're going to do as well. But as well, you can take that particular Bible verse and use it to mean, be the example that you want your child to be. And so even in my marriage, as I shared earlier, how it works hand in hand, the child and the marriage is one. Because as your child grows older, you want to live your life in such a way that, say for my daughter, for example, that she chooses a man, and she's going to, that resembles her dad. So make sure the father that you are and the husband that you are to your wife in front of your child is the type man you want your child to gravitate toward, right? And make sure that child, that your daughter is experiencing from you what you expect her to expect from the young man that will be in her life one day. Okay? And same with the son, you know, be that man, be that husband that you want your son to be to a woman. Be polite, you know, don't be verbal or vocal or harsh towards your wife. I've never called my wife a name. I've never raised a hand to my wife. I've never cheated on my wife. You know, those type things, we have to be the type men we want our sons to be, and we have to be the type men we want our daughters to gravitate toward. So how do you make sure your children are sane? Don't be insane yourself. Be the person you want them to be. And even though they might kind of rebel in their actions and kind of seem like they're going different directions, that piece of you they're going to carry with them everywhere they go. And in time, as they get older, it will take over and they'll be that person that you've demonstrated in front of them. How's that? Well, anyway, I want to thank you for joining me once again. And I want to invite you to join me again. You take care. Bye.